The DEA was contemplating whether or not they would reclassify marijuana from Schedule 1 under the Controlled Substances Act. Now, under this classification, it puts marijuana in the same category as drugs such as heroin and LSD that allegedly have no known medical benefits and are very addictive. Now, I believe that it should be removed from the Controlled Substance Act altogether. We should just declassify it completely. But the fact that they won't even choose to move it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 is honestly ridiculous. So the DEA claims it was supportive of efforts to advance scientific research on marijuana, but that it maintained its opposition to medical marijuana. Marijuana has no accepted medical use in the United States and lacks an acceptable level of safety for use even under medical supervision, it said. Now, that couldn't be further from the truth, because it's been proven with the limited amount of medical studies that we've actually been able to do that there are a plethora of medical benefits to cannabis. So when it comes to treating epilepsy and reducing nausea among cancer patients who are undergoing chemotherapy, it has medical benefits. Now, I've seen it firsthand from one of my family members who has lupus, never smoked marijuana in her life, and then she started getting medical marijuana to treat her lupus, and she basically had a new lease on life. She was like a normal person. It reduced her pain. And furthermore, think about the obvious benefits that it might have for people with mental illness, such as depression and anxiety even. I mean, it's evident. The medical benefits are evident, and it's just common sense to think, yeah, people like to do this, so maybe it has some mental and psychological benefits. And obviously, it's not physically addictive. It's certainly no more harmful than alcohol, and I would actually argue that it's less harmful than alcohol. So, I mean, this decision, it further diminishes the credibility of an already outdated organization that I think has done more harm than good. So when it comes to my stance on drugs, I've always had a libertarian philosophy that, if it doesn't harm me, then I think people should have the personal liberty to do what they want. So that means we abolish the DEA or convert it into the DRA, the Drug Rehabilitation Agency, and then we decriminalize all drugs, legalize some, and see if you convert the DEA into the DRA, then nobody from the DEA loses jobs, and not only would we watch the crime rate fall, but we'd watch drug user rates and incarceration rates fall. This would particularly benefit minority communities, because even though it's the case that African Americans use marijuana at the same rate or a lower rate than white people, they are 4 times as likely to be arrested. So it's just time that we update our policies and our societal view when it comes to drugs. Now, a progressive that we all know and love had something to say about this. So Bernie Sanders condemned the decision on Twitter, saying that people can argue about the pluses and minuses of marijuana, but everyone knows it's not a killer drug like heroin. And actually, last year, Bernie Sanders introduced legislation to completely deschedule marijuana and remove it from the Controlled Substance Act altogether. Now, even though this is bad news, there is a kernel of good news that we can take from this. The New York Times explains that the Obama administration is planning to remove a major roadblock to marijuana research, officials said Wednesday, potentially spurring broad scientific study of a drug that is being used to treat dozens of diseases in states across the nation, despite little rigorous evidence of its effectiveness. The new policy is expected to sharply increase the supply of marijuana available to researchers, and in taking this step, the Obama administration is further relaxing the nation's stance on marijuana. President Obama has said he views it as no more dangerous than alcohol, and the Justice Department has not stood in the way of states that have legalized the drug. So this is a step in the right direction. It's progress, albeit slow, incremental baby steps, but I mean, I'll take it over nothing. But I mean, still, I was honestly shocked when I read this, that the DEA is still trying to convince us about this reefer madness theory that marijuana is addictive and that it's as harmful as heroin and it's going to melt your brain. It's honestly just propaganda. And what's really behind this drive? Why is it the case that so many politicians are against marijuana legalization? You'd think that it wouldn't matter, right? Well, it does matter, because the alcohol industry is contributing thousands of dollars to politicians in both parties to get them to keep marijuana illegal. So one example is Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She rails against marijuana. She thinks it's harmful and doesn't want it legalized, yet she takes money from the alcohol industry. How many people die from alcohol poisoning and from drunk driving and killing people every single year? It's thousands. How many people die from marijuana overdoses? It sounds funny just saying it. 0. So it's honestly just, it's puzzling. It's so outdated. This is going to be legal in all 50 states, in many countries. It just doesn't make sense to keep marijuana illegal when it is not harmful.